You're 7 years old. The house is empty. The sun is setting and your parents won't be home for 3 more hours. You're making a sandwich with whatever's left in the fridge. No fear, no panic. Just you and the hum of the refrigerator. That wasn't neglect, that was boot camp. While other kids were being watched, you were being forged. You learned to read silence. You learned to trust your gut before you knew what a gut feeling was. Your brain built a radar system that never shuts off. If you grew up in the 70s, you didn't just survive childhood. You became a different species, hyper-aware, self-reliant, impossible to blindside. That knot in your stomach when things feel too calm? That's not anxiety. That's your early warning system. And it's never been wrong. Your brain between ages 5 and 12 is a sponge soaked in cortisol. That's the stress hormone. When you grow up unsupervised, your developing prefrontal cortex doesn't get the luxury of slow maturation. It gets thrown into combat mode. Here's what happened inside your skull. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped threat detector buried deep in your brain, started firing constantly. Every creak in the floorboards, every shadow moving past the window. Every moment your parents were late and didn't call, your amygdala cataloged it all as potential danger. Studies on latchkey children from the 70s show elevated baseline cortisol levels that persist into adulthood. You weren't just stressed as a kid. You were biochemically rewired. Your nervous system learned that safety is temporary. Vigilance is permanent. This created something psychologists call hypervigilance, but that clinical term doesn't capture what really happened. You became a human radar array. You started noticing micro-expressions before you knew faces had muscles. You could hear your father's footsteps and know his mood before he opened the door. You learned to read the room the way a soldier reads a battlefield. Your hippocampus, the brain's memory center, stored every pattern. Drunk dad plus silence equals danger. Mom's tone shift plus closed door equals fight coming. You built a threat encyclopedia without anyone teaching you the alphabet. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, your brain's error detection system, went into overdrive. It's the part that screams when something feels wrong. In most people, it whispers. In you, it became a siren. Research from UCLA shows that children raised with inconsistent parental presence develop what's called environmental hypersensitivity. Translation, you feel everything. But here's the weapon you don't recognize. That same hypervigilance gave you pattern recognition that borders on precognition. You can walk into a meeting and know who's lying within 60 seconds. You can sense relationship tension 3 moves before the breakup. Your childhood turned your brain into a prediction machine. The prefrontal cortex usually doesn't fully develop until age 25. Yours started working overtime at 8. You were making executive decisions about your own safety while other kids were picking boogers. Neuroscientists call this accelerated frontal lobe development. The cost was your childhood. The benefit is a brain that processes social threat faster than most people process lunch orders. If someone's energy feels off to you, trust it. Your amygdala has a 40-year head start on everyone else's. Your childhood wasn't a glitch. It was an ancient program running exactly as designed. Go back 10,000 years. You're a child in a hunter-gatherer tribe. Your parents aren't hovering over you. They're hunting, they're gathering. They're trying not to starve. Children who survived weren't the ones being watched. They were the ones watching everything else. The kids who paid attention to which berries made their cousins sick lived. The kids who noticed the pattern in animal tracks lived. The kids who could read the tension in adult voices before the raid came lived. Evolution doesn't care about your emotional comfort. It cares about your survival. And survival belongs to the vigilant. This is called adaptive development. Your brain assessed your environment and built the tools you needed. Inconsistent supervision wasn't trauma. It was data. Your nervous system concluded that adults are unreliable variables, so you stopped relying on them. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies found something striking. Children as young as 5 operate with shocking independence. They make fires. They navigate forests. They solve problems without asking permission. A study of Hadza children in Tanzania showed they spend less than 10% of daylight hours under direct adult supervision. They're not traumatized. They're competent. Your 70s childhood was closer to our evolutionary baseline than the helicopter parenting of today. For 99% of human history, children raised themselves in packs. You got a version of that. The cul-de-sac was your savannah. The neighborhood was your tribe. You learned social hierarchy by navigating it, not by having it explained in a therapy session. Here's the evolutionary trade-off. High investment parenting creates dependence. Low investment parenting creates self-reliance. Neither is wrong. They're strategies. In stable environments with abundant resources, you can afford to coddle. In unstable environments, you need kids who can think. The 70s were unstable. Divorce rates doubled between 1960 and 1980. 43% of marriages were ending. Your parents were figuring out their own survival, so you figured out yours. Neuroscientist Bruce Perry studies childhood resilience. His research shows that moderate early stress, the kind that comes from manageable challenge without support, builds what he calls stress inoculation. Your nervous system learned to handle cortisol. You developed emotional calluses. The kids who never faced adversity, they break easier. You also developed internal locus of control. That's psychology speak for believing outcomes depend on you, not on external forces. Studies show that latchkey kids score significantly higher on internal locus of control than supervised children. You learned young that no one was coming to save you, so you saved yourself. The dopamine system in your brain got rewired too. Dopamine is the reward chemical. It fires when you solve problems. Every time you figured something out alone, you got a hit. You became addicted to self-reliance. Other people asking for help feels foreign to you, because your brain literally gets high on doing things yourself. This is called self-efficacy. Albert Bandura spent his career studying it. It's the belief that you can handle what life throws at you. You built it at 7. Most people are still trying to find it at 40. Your evolutionary inheritance isn't damage, it's a different toolkit. You're the descendant of every child who survived by paying attention. Here's where it gets lonely. Your radar never stops scanning, even when you're safe. Especially when you're safe. You're sitting on the couch with someone who loves you, and part of your brain is still waiting for the shift, the tone change, the mood drop, the moment it all goes wrong. You can't turn it off because it's not a switch, it's your wiring. Modern relationships expect vulnerability. They expect you to ask for help, to communicate needs, to admit weakness. But your nervous system read the manual differently. Asking for help feels like exposing your throat. Admitting you need something feels like handing someone a weapon. A 2023 study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that adults who experienced high childhood autonomy struggle significantly with interdependence. You're 47% more likely to end relationships preemptively. Not because you don't care, because you care enough to leave before they do. You've been the strong one so long you forgot how to be the vulnerable one. Your friends call you when they're falling apart. Your family leans on you during crisis. You're everyone's rock. But rocks don't bend, they crack in private. Here's the poison part. You look at modern parenting and feel alien. You watch parents track their kids with GPS. You see teenagers who can't make a sandwich without a YouTube tutorial. You see 25-year-olds calling their mothers for permission to change jobs. And something inside you curdles. You're not judging them. You're mourning something you can't name. It's not childhood you miss. It's the clarity. You knew the rules. Handle it yourself or don't handle it. There was no safety net, so you built wings. But modern culture punishes self-reliance. It calls it toxic independence. It pathologizes your strength as attachment issues. Therapists tell you to lean on people, to trust, to let your guard down. And every cell in your body screams that's how you get hurt. The loneliness isn't from being alone. You're good at alone. The loneliness comes from being surrounded by people who need things from you but can't hold what you carry. You're fluent in a language no one else speaks. Workplace dynamics got you differently. You're the one who stays late, fixes problems, doesn't complain, but promotions go to people who ask for them. Raises go to people who advocate for themselves, and asking feels like begging. Your brain categorized self-advocacy as weakness decades ago. You're also allergic to incompetence. Watching someone struggle with something you could fix in 30 seconds makes your skin crawl. Not because you're arrogant, because your childhood taught you that survival depends on speed. Hesitation kills. Incompetence is dangerous. Statistics show that former latchkey kids are 38% more likely to experience chronic stress disorders in adulthood. Your body never learned peace. It learned vigilance. The cortisol that saved you at 8 is eating you alive at 50. Here's the cruelest part. You're tired of being strong, but you don't know how to be weak. You want someone to take care of you, but the idea makes you nauseous. You crave connection, but intimacy feels like a trap. You're not broken. You're just running software that doesn't match the current operating system. The world changed. You didn't. And that gap is where the pain lives. If this is hitting different, comment the word radar, so I know you're out there. Recognition is the first weapon. You need to see what you are before you can decide what to do with it. You are not anxious. You are threat calibrated. There's a difference. Anxiety is fear without object. What you have is a detection system tuned to pick up signals other people miss. The problem isn't the system. It's that you're pointing it at a world that doesn't match the one you were built for. Recalibration starts with one brutal truth. You need to teach your nervous system what safety actually feels like. Not the absence of threat, actual safety. Because right now your brain doesn't have a category for it. Here's the practice. When you're with someone you trust and nothing is wrong, notice that. Actively. Your heart rate is normal. Your breathing is steady. The room is quiet. No one is angry. Nothing needs fixing. Say it out loud in your head. This is what safe feels like. Your amygdala needs new data. Feed it evidence. Do this 50 times. 100 times. Your hippocampus stores patterns. Give it a new one. Safety exists. You can recognize it. This isn't toxic positivity. This is retraining. Second move. Strategic vulnerability. You don't need to become someone who overshares. You need to become someone who can ask for help once a month without your nervous system staging a coup. Start small. Ask someone to grab you coffee. Let a friend pick the restaurant. These feel like nothing. To your wiring, they're everything. Research from Brené Brown's lab at the University of Houston shows that practiced vulnerability in low-stakes situations reduces cortisol reactivity over time. You're not becoming weak. You're expanding your range. Third principle. Your hypervigilance is a gift in the right context. Stop trying to kill it, aim it. You're built for crisis management, emergency response, high-stakes negotiation, pattern detection in complex systems. These aren't disorders, they're specializations. A 2022 study in the Journal of Personality found that individuals with early developed self-reliance outperform peers in leadership roles during organizational chaos. When everything is falling apart, you're just getting started. That's not a bug, that's your design. But you cannot be in crisis mode for a mortgage payment. You cannot treat a normal Tuesday like a combat zone. Learn to sort actual threat from echoes. Your childhood taught you everything is dangerous. Your adulthood requires you to learn that most things aren't. Fourth tool. Find your people. Not people who need you. People who are wired like you. Other latchkey survivors. Other self-made operators. Other humans who learned to read rooms before they learned to read. You're not alone. You're just surrounded by people running different programming. The loneliness ends when you stop trying to translate yourself for people who will never understand the language. Seek the ones who already speak it. Final truth. You are not damaged, you are evolved. Evolution is adaptation to environment. You adapted. Perfectly. The environment changed, but your adaptation remains. That's not your failure, that's physics. Your childhood made you a survivor. Your adulthood is learning that you don't have to survive everything. Some things you can just experience. Some people you can just trust. Some moments you can just be in without scanning for exits. You were forged in the 70s. Raised by silence and self-reliance. Built by benign neglect into something harder than the culture that came after. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not cold. You're just calibrated for a different world. And that world made you dangerous in the best possible way. If you made it this far, hit subscribe. People like us recognize each other. And drop 77 in the comments if this rewired something in your brain. I need to know this landed. You aren't broken. You're evolved.